You just know that man is the most beautiful boy in there. Hey y'all, welcome back to Kayla's Movie Corner. I'm so excited to have you back. Today, we are going to be talking about Bikeriders. So, we're going to be talking about Austin Butler and Mike Feist. Not too much on how attractive they are, even though that will come up a few times, I have to admit. But we're going to be talking about their performance in Bikeriders and the movie as a whole. And overall, we're going to be trying to answer the age-old question of, does Bikeriders deserve more hype? Because I feel like I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. I've only seen people bring up Austin Butler's discography recently when he was cast in American Psycho, Luca Guadagnino. So anyways, let's just get right into it. Let's just start very basically with what is the plot of Bikeriders. Bikeriders classifies itself as a crime drama. Now, what does that mean? I don't really know. This is not typically my cup of tea, my type of movie, you know? I'm more of a romance, a rom-com, a romance drama, a period piece. Those are sort of more my specialty. So what drew me to the film, of course, was the casting. What made me stay despite that, because mind you, there have been movies that I've started watching because I was like, oh, it has my favorite actor in it. And then I started watching it and I'm like, oh, this is not for me. I can't do it. It gets boring, snooze fest. But this was not one of those movies, and let's talk about why. One of the main reasons was the performances. Absolutely amazing. Cast is star-studded. And also, the structure of the film itself also makes you want to hear the ending. You want to know what's going to happen, you know? And the plot as a whole isn't just focused on them being bike riders, but their stories and their interpersonal relations with each other and within the gang itself. That's what leads you to want to stay and watch the movie despite not caring at all about how bike riders live and their lives themselves, like me. So, the movie opens up with a shot of Austin Butler, who we can tell just from the back of his head. We just know from the way he's sitting that that's our leading man. We zoom in onto a shot of him. He's at a bar, he's alone, and all of a sudden these two guys come up to him and they beat him up, essentially, for wearing his colors. You can't have those colors on in here. When I first heard them say this, I thought, oh, he's not really wearing any color. He's not walking around like a Crip. But as the movie progresses, we understand that what's written on the back of his shirt is the Vandals from Chicago, and that is known as the colors. Why? I don't know. It's not really giving colorful. There's not a specific color, but I think they just mean the jacket and the name and the brand of it all. And so these establishing shots are very blue, dark, gloomy. They're giving sort of depressive drama. And they're letting you know that trouble is up ahead, and more specifically, they're letting you know that this man in particular is trouble. Through this initial establishing scene alone, we learn that Benny is not the type of character that is afraid of anything. They ask him to take off his colors. He's clearly outnumbered, and yet he doesn't take them off, and he doesn't say no. He says, "You're gonna have to rip these from my dead back." And you know what? I respect it. You get the vibe that he's not afraid of anything. We don't know if that's because he has really thick skin or because he's a little dumb. Maybe he just doesn't think in general, and so therefore he doesn't think in a dangerous situation like this one. But anyways, the scene cuts and we hear Kathy's voice.
I've had nothing but trouble since I met Benny.
We get the sense that this is a "you might be wondering how I ended up here" sort of thing. But we don't cut back to Austin Butler. We cut to Kathy. We cut to Kathy and Mike Feist. And let me tell you, when I first saw this man pop up on the screen, I was like, wait, what? Because I had no clue that he was in this movie. But he is. And he is the photographer, which is actually the source material that the movie is based on. This photographer who is taking pictures of this biker gang, and that's why there's just this random photographer. He's taking like voice recordings of people. We get the backstory of how Kathy met Benny. We see her walking into this scary bar. She's all clean clothed, giving clean cut professional woman, and she's walking into this dirty, dingy bar with smelly men. You can clearly see the juxtaposition between Kathy and even her demeanor and the way she carries herself and these men, this biker gang. But you know, as I've painted that picture, and as you can see, this is just the picturesque, ideal time for a meet cute. We cut to a spotlight and we see a man hunched over, shoulders broad. You just know that man is the most beautiful boy in there. He's wearing a muscle tee, no sleeves. He's hot. He has a spotlight, an intro song, and a dream. I mean, if I turned around in a bar and I saw that man, I would fold too. So he catches Kathy, comes up and introduces himself.
I'm Benny.
He kind of gives like shy boy energy, which I think is very interesting. And I think it really contrasts very well with the energy that all the other men in the bar are giving. Because they're kind of like, let me take you out. What's your name? Da-da-da-da. And then here comes Benny just being like, hey, how you doing? And you just know that man is trouble.
Yeah, I guess.
Kathy also knows that this boy is clearly trouble, but she is intrigued. But she kind of likes it. Kind of tells him, I'm going home. I'm not really interested. He respects her boundaries. He gets up and he says, okay. 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 Oh, we love a respectful man. Anyway, so he leaves shortly after, and you get this music on the outside that contrasts so well with the hustle and bustle of the bar. And it's their intro song, their love song. We're interrupted from this beautiful moment. The rip of his motorcycle. And now, this part, a little scary, especially, she's a woman alone at night, minding her business at the bus stop. But all of a sudden, everyone barges out of the bar at once and is like, get on this bike, go for a ride, go for it, girl. And she's like, okay. You know what? Why not? Sure. And we later learned that it was because, Benny's just a little shy. He's a little shy. And Johnny wanted to make sure that he got his girl. Which is sweet, but weird. Because why is Johnny so attached to Benny? We'll get into that later. But I think this is the first instance where we get that sense of Johnny as particularly protective over this one person. He's so invested in Benny getting this girl and not everyone else in the bar who also is kind of interested. So Kathy joins Benny on his bike. We get these absolutely beautiful shots of them riding the motorcycle through the streets. We see the streets with nothing on it, and then we see all the motorcycles coming at once, and it's really sort of majestic. I feel like it's what you would imagine a herd of horses or cattle, like everyone just sort of taking up space, riding together, really giving the sense of unity, family, of herdship, that sort of thing. But yes, with these beautiful shots of the road, we get peaceful music with just engines of motorcycles humming. It's very, very beautiful. And this is the sort of introduction that we get to how someone becomes involved in this sort of world. We understand that there is a sense of beauty to it, that there is love. These people are capable of being nice and kind to one another. This moment of convincing Kathy that this is a beautiful thing and it can be beautiful and it can be fun and riveting is what gets her to want to be with Benny, but also lets us as the audience know that this is also a way that you can kind of be involved and have some investment in this because they are a family that's just riding together and having fun.
I mean, I have to admit, it took my breath away.
And so you can tell that Kathy is loving and living for this moment, both in the past and in the present when she's talking to Mr. Mikey Boy. And like a true gentleman, Benny drops her off at her house and she goes back in, and we learn that she has a boyfriend. So we see that Miss Kathy is not so innocent herself either, because she did not tell Benny that. So she tries to go back in the house. Her boyfriend is not happy, as he can clearly see that Mr. Benny on a motorcycle has dropped her off and they've been on a ride together. And so Benny, he drives on and you think, oh, I guess he's leaving. But no, why would he leave the girl of his dreams? He comes back and he parks on the other side of the road. And he stays there and he watches the boyfriend go back in, and then he just stands there. He smokes a cigarette and he stands there for the rest of the night until the morning. He watches the boyfriend go to work, and he's still standing there. Doesn't move. Smokes another cig, and he's still there. Kathy says, oh, you need to move before my boyfriend gets home from work.
He's gonna be pissed.
He doesn't move. He does not care. He said, I am getting you one way or another. And so her boyfriend comes back from work, and he leaves the house. He says, I'm leaving today. He takes all his stuff out, and he makes his journey. And Benny is still he's standing there, and then he makes his way in. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what this technique of picking up girls is. I don't know if this is like his tried and true technique, if he's done this before, if somebody told him that this would work, or if this is just what his no thoughts, head empty brain conjured up as a way to get her to not have a boyfriend anymore. I don't know. But hey, the game is the game. And he won. Now, by this point in the movie, I don't think Benny has said a full sentence. He says words here and there, he mumbles a bit, but I don't think he has said a full sentence. And so he walks up to the door and he says,
Wanna go to a meeting?
and then before you know it, they're married. You know what? I respect it. Sometimes I like men that don't speak that much either. So you know what? I see your game card, Kathy. Hand it over. And so the next scene that I want to talk about is where Benny has another head empty moment, I guess. We see Benny on his bike running away from the police, and he runs out of gas in the middle of nowhere. And therefore, he gets caught. And you would think, oh, he's like this bad boy biker. I wonder what he did. Maybe he like robbed a bank or something. Maybe he was like, maybe he beat somebody up, aggravated assault. Like, who knows what he did.
Was arrested and charged with 18 traffic violations.
And then we come to learn that he just ran some stoplight. And then we get the sense of, oh, they're not really that kind of gang, are they? Like, they really are just like Bikeriders. And that's all. And now let's go back to Mike Feist's character. Do I know his name? No, he's just a photographer. But something that I noticed throughout the film is that he is holding the mic 100 feet away.
Hey, so tell me more about Johnny.
Like what?
At all times, 100 feet away from the person who's speaking. So I don't know how good his mic is. Mind you, this is probably the 70s. I don't know, but like, I don't think the mic works that well. Like, he's expecting to capture Kathy's audio of her speaking at a normal voice from 100 feet away. I don't know about that. Come on, Mike, like, get it together. What kind of photographer are you?
What do you mean by Johnny was watching TV?
And now let's get into Johnny's character, because now we're getting into a little bit of backstory on all of the bikers. Mike is asking questions. He goes, who's Johnny? So Johnny is played by the same guy who also stars in This Means War with Chris Pine. And so Johnny is the leader of the Vandals. And we learned that it started off as simply a racing club.
I'm thinking of starting a riding club.
And essentially, all of the members are kind of a bunch of rejects. They're outcasts from their family, they're from their jobs in some way.
But everyone wants to be part of something.
They wanted to feel included, and so that's why they joined this biker group. It's something to do on the weekends. You know, some people have like book clubs, a sewing club, things like that, a church even. And so these people have their biker club. And we get introduced to all of the members. I'm not going to talk too much about all of them because I don't really care.
They call me Corky. I ride Wahoo's old lady.
But something that I thought was funny was this guy named Cockroach.
I like to be dirty.
And I guess he's called that because he eats bugs. I don't know. But we get the shot of him and his wife and his kid, and he's kind of talking about how he, eats bugs, how he's so dirty and disgusting and how he loves it and whatever. And the wife is just standing there in utter disgust. And what the shot made me think is he lying? Like, is he being for real? Or did he just make up this persona of someone who likes bugs because he wanted an interesting trait? Because, sometimes their name relates to their personality. And does this guy really eat bugs? Or did he just want to be special and unique? And bringing this back to Mike's character, because he really is the sort of thread that weaves the story together and keeps the pacing throughout. And we see Mike's character just kind of twirling around the microphone. And when you think about it, he really has no purpose in the story other than being a plot device. Like, his character itself has no impact. He's just telling the story, but he's also not the narrator. He's just asking questions to Kathy, who is the narrator. Like, he's just there. I love that he's there, but he's just there. The next sort of major plot point that we get into is, do they expand the club past where they are in Chicago?
I got some friends in Milwaukee. They like what we're doing out here and asked if they could join up.
Do they go to Milwaukee? What do they do? Johnny says no.
I say no.
The guy who makes the proposition is like, yeah, but I want to.
I say we let them start a chapter.
So then they fight in the mud about it. They break each other's fingers, yada, yada, yada. And then they decide, yeah, we're going to do it. as they expand, we see that they start to poison the youth, starting with Sid from Toy Story, who is definitely just a ruthless kid. You can tell he definitely has a rough childhood, a rough background, and that's where his anger stems from. But he truly is just ruthless with no remorse, rhyme, or reason. This can really signify where this group is headed. Because we started off with people who got into crimes for just, running red lights and not doing much. People just eating bugs and stuff.
I like to be dirty.
And now we see that Sid bangs in the car simply because he said, "Get out the road, kid." So we see the anger and the aggression and how it's just leveling up and progressing and where the future of the organization is going to lead to. Sid definitely has some deep wounds that are unhealed, making him the perfect suspect to be a gang member. So now as the gang has expanded, we go to this sort of picnic, meet and greet with the Vandals and other people, other groups, and a brawl begins to start. It starts off as a simple disagreement. Somebody thinks that they, were looking at their bike the wrong way. Maybe they stole something, they damaged it, whatever. They scratched it, I think.
No, all of a sudden there's a scratch.
What's going on?
And Benny goes to the bathroom during this time. He comes back and he sees sort of everyone having this standoff against each other, and he can sense that oh, somebody might do something to Johnny.
Boyfriends are getting into trouble.
And so, Benny, with his no thoughts, head empty mindset, just goes straight in and punches and starts the brawl. So Benny starts the fight, and he's also the one that ends it because he accidentally smashes through somebody's car window, getting glass in his hand. And everyone hears the glass shatter, and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" They look at him, and they're like, "This is, a good time to stop. This is getting too much." Benny, having no awareness of what's going on around him, he continues fighting, and he has to get pulled off because, hello, you're gonna kill someone. What's going on?
Jesus.
And so here we learn that Benny just being no thoughts, head empty,
What I need to think for?
is a scary thing and might not be the best trait to have because he doesn't know his limits. He doesn't know when to stop. And so that can get scary very easily, as he could have killed that man. He didn't. He very much would have gone to that length just to protect the people he loves.
Kathy, why do you think the guys, they don't wear their colors when they're not all together?
And so now we have another conversation about colors. And we learn that they never wear their colors alone. Mostly it's because they're scared, except for Benny. Because Benny is not afraid. He knows that he can fight. He knows that he has that fighter spirit in him. And so he knows that if he needs to get into an altercation, he will. And so because of this conversation, we flash back to the opening scene and we see how the fight actually ends. Benny goes for it, but ultimately he almost gets his foot chopped clean off. And so we understand now more about Benny's character and why he refused to take his jacket off in the beginning. Because he is strong-willed, but also just doesn't care about anything. He really just doesn't care. And so now we get a future interview, and we know this because Mike Feist now has aggressive sideburns. And we learn that Benny is only scared of losing his foot because he won't be able to ride a motorcycle if he only has one foot.
All right, you don't want to take my foot off. Take my foot off and I can't ride no more.
Therefore showing again his values. The only thing he cares about really is bike riding. That sense of community he gets, caring for people in those ways. That's it.
What I need to think for?
And so now we see that Johnny and Benny throughout this movie are just crashing out over each other, really.
Johnny went crazy.
And this is what leads to the violence and crime and sort of the focal points of what started this book club to turn into a gang. So again, in the aftermath of Benny getting beat up, we see Willard Oldham, which is this guy with the mustache who I feel like I've seen a million times, but also couldn't tell you when's the last time I've seen him. And so I feel really bad for his character because it wasn't even his employees that hurt Benny, but now he is gonna lose his bar.
I don't want any trouble here.
He's probably worked his whole life to own this bar, and now he's gonna have to give it up.
This is my bar. I own it.
All because Johnny is crashing out over Benny, as if he's his son. When he has children. Johnny has children. I bet you he's not crashing out over them kids like he is over Benny. And why is that? That's something that never gets answered, and I kind of wish it did. And so anyways, Johnny decides we're gonna go send a hitman for the guys who beat up Benny. Rightfully so, that makes sense. And what do they do about the bar?
Burn it down.
They decide to burn it down. Yeah. And so this is the first big sort of organized crime that they have done. You see all of the bikers standing outside, and it's a beautiful shot of them looking at this building burning down to the ground. And there's ambulances, there's firemen, there's police, but they're not doing anything to stop it. And so here we see the dynamic between the organized crime and the federal organizations.
They're scared of us.
How they are scared of what people like Benny, people who don't really think when they do things, and people who are doing things out of emotion only. And in the shot of Johnny where he's looking around like,
I think it terrified him.
you can really see that he has this sense of power, where now he realizes that at the drop of a dime, he can command everyone to do something and they'll do it. And that's the power that he has. And then we get into this conversation of, is that too much power for one person to have? Can he handle it? That whole thing. And at this point, he's just testing what he can get away with. He's not really scared of anything. Kind of like Benny. And now one of my favorite scenes in the movie is we go back to the aftermath of Benny. He's laying in bed recovering with his foot propped up, and we see him and Kathy
There. Oh, we were just having a drink. Would you
just kind of giving each other, little finger reaches. They're very slight touches. It's not really a sexual thing, and I love that. Because you would think with bikers, gangs, it would be inherently very sexual. The women would be very sexualized. There would be a lot of that going on and it would be distasteful. But here we see that Benny is sort of just liking her contact. They're just enjoying each other's presence and company. And it just makes little butterflies flutter. Johnny and Kathy are battling for their love for Benny.
Yeah, you look good. You're looking all right. The guys thought you might really be out of it.
He is out of it. He can't walk.
Johnny is trying to convince Benny to go out for a ride. They have this big meetup, but obviously he is recovering, and Kathy does not like this idea of him going out so early because he literally just got surgery. Hello. And so Benny is like, you know what? I'll just leave.
I should just go. Be better
Stop.
off not having to take care of me, worry about me.
And in that moment, I wanted to punch him through the screen because it's like, why are you like this? But I guess we understand that he is closed off. He doesn't want other people to worry about him. He doesn't want others to care about him because he doesn't want to hurt people. But it does make you wonder what happened to him that makes him so broken and hyper independent. And so now we're kind of getting the sense that maybe being a vandal isn't really the life to live. Like, how do you start a family? How do you have a happy wife, a life, all while doing this bike riding thing? Because it just seems to lead to trouble, whether that's injury, whether that's being power hungry, whether that's crime. It's just never leading to anything good. And so Kathy wants Benny to leave.
You can't have him.
Who?
Benny, you can't have him. The club can't have him. He's mine.
Kathy thinks that the club is not good for him anymore. He's already been injured. Something bad is going to happen to him. And so she asked Johnny to kick Benny out of the club. And as you're watching this, you're like, there's no way he's going to do that. But I can understand Kathy's logic, because if Johnny really cared about Benny and wanted him to be alive and well, he would know that the bike gang is not the way for Benny to live. But Johnny does not share that same belief, because he knows that the club needs Benny, because Benny is not afraid of anything. And that's the type of people that the club needs. And then all of a sudden, we're back to Sid from Toy Story. We're thrust into his family. It's horrific. We see there's this abuse all around, bad things, bad vibe, absolutely terrible. And the kid isn't necessarily at fault. He does throw some punches around, but we see that it is the environment that these people grow up in, of feeling outcast, feeling unwanted, that leads them to seek solidarity in these groups. And so although we don't see the backstory of all the adults, or any of them for that matter, we can assume that this sort of relationship with their families that exists for the kid exists for them in some form or fashion. And so now we're introduced to a new biker. Yeah, woo, just what we wanted. Another smelly man. So he comes in, he's disgusting as all of them are. Teeth are black. He's eating creamed corn with his fingers. Bad vibes all around, you know? Turns out he's a California hippie turned into a bike rider. I don't know. Guys, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the plot is. What's going on? Where is Benny? I want to know, do Kathy and Benny end up together? That's what I care about. So, we're at the fire pit. Sad story. Bad vibes. Vibes are just weird all around, to be honest. And there's a moment with Mr. Crazy Hair where we see that he wanted to join the military, but they didn't want him.
You are an undesirable character.
Even the military would not accept him. He passed all of the physical tests, but they said his character was unfit. And you can tell that that's something that has stuck with him.
We don't want you.
And resonated with him and really touched him in a place that really can't be healed by anything else other than finding a sense of inclusion somewhere. And that's why he sought refuge in this biker group. And so everyone's kind of looking around and they're like, they all probably have stories just like that, and that's probably why they're all quiet around the fire pit, because they can all relate of having that moment of feeling or being told that they are unfit to be in something that they want to be a part of so badly, and therefore they made their own group. Next we see Benny and Johnny having a conversation. Johnny pulls him aside. You can tell Kathy is probably thinking, oh, Johnny's gonna tell Benny to leave. But no. What does Johnny ask Benny?
I can't run this club forever, you know. I'm gonna have to find somebody to take it over, you know.
He asked him to take over and be the leader of the club. Yeah.
It's you.
And you would assume with the progression of the story that, oh, Benny is probably going to take the role. Because why wouldn't he? He has no other real prospects. Like, it's not like he has a job or anything. Like, what does Benny really do? So why wouldn't he take the job of being head honcho in charge? He's been following Johnny's footsteps. He's like Johnny's right-hand man, basically. But he says no.
Come on.
He says, no thanks, I'm good. He says, I can't even pay the dues. He pulls out his Chicago accent. I know Austin Butler probably trained for months to get that Chicago accent right. And then, you know, he probably has like 4 good lines in the movie. You know, he really doesn't speak that much.
You're a grown up, man.
The poor man. He's the main character, but he do be barely speaking. But he's really a soft-spoken baby girl at heart. And no Vandal jacket can take that away. But anyways, baby girl does not want to be president of the club. He does not want to be the leader. He's not interested at all. But even so, he does still want to be a part of the gang. And Kathy is not happy with that.
And the only thing is, I thought I could change him, you know?
And it brings us back to the age-old question of, why do women think they can change men?
I mean, every woman thinks that she can change a guy.
Even she realizes this as she's retelling the story. She's like, I thought that I could change him. And Benny's always saying that he will leave. Benny seems to know and understand what Kathy's saying, but still doesn't follow through with that pursuit. And then as we're having this conversation of, should Benny leave? Is he going to leave? Benny kind of wants to leave. He doesn't want to be the leader, but he wants to be a part of the gang. We get another bad moment where Bruce, who was kind of the right-hand man of Johnny, he got run over. He went, poosh, rest in peace, Bruce. And then we get them saying,
There's always that one that gets you.
the one that comes out of nowhere will get you.
It's the one that comes out, that one that comes out of nowhere. That's the one that will get you.
Like, I don't know, man. Y'all are a little slow. I don't think now's the time to be making those sort of jokes. Like, a man just died. Your man's just died. So maybe have some decorum. Come on. And so because he's died, now we're going to the funeral. Johnny's trying to send flowers, but they don't accept them. And instead of sort of accepting this and being like, you know what, they don't want anything from us because he died on a bike, so they blame them. Of course, the family, his parents, they would blame the biker gang for his death. You know, the reason he was knocked over by that car in the first place.
Wait,
But no, Johnny takes this as a sign of, you know what?
we'll take him ourselves.
And thus far in the story, it's been told from the perspective of Kathy and Mike, sort of. So we've kind of been in the gang. You know, Mike has been traveling with them. He's, you know, holding the microphone with them. He's been following along, kind of cosplaying, really. And so this is the first time that we see the perspective of people who aren't affiliated with the gang and don't want to be affiliated with them. They don't want to learn about them. They don't want to be their friend. They don't want to make a documentary about them. And so we see Bruce's family come in to the funeral and they are disgusted that the vandals even thought that it was appropriate for them to be outside and deliver flowers. They spit in their faces. They scoff at them. It's clear that the regular people don't approve of this line of work per se. It's a really sad, sort of depressing scene because everyone is feeling the same emotions. They are all sad that Bruce has gone, but the Bikeriders are not allowed to publicly mourn the death of their friend because it's inappropriate for them to be seen in public at a place like this. It's a bad look. They are again being outcasted, even as a group, in which they would hope to kind of all be unified together and accepted because they have found friends in a place where they belong. They are still outcasted. And so they are feeling double those emotions of, again, feeling like an outcast just like they did in their past, and also mourning the death of their friend.
Get out of here.
The song is wailing beautifully in the background. It's just sad vibes all around. And a sad girl like me enjoyed it very, very much. Like, it was really, really well done. And so we get the sense that their only safe place, and the place that they are always seen throughout the movie, is their dimly lit bar. That is where they can seek refuge, where they can find one another, and where they feel the most at home. And then we get the kid again, and now he's old enough. He wants to join the gang.
Hey, he said that you're the one to talk to about joining up.
And Johnny is genuinely taken aback by the audacity of this kid wanting to join.
Oh no.
Like, his reaction is hilarious because why does his face, he's like, huh? I guess he assumes that the kid's like 12. Mind you, the kid does look young, especially to these men. These men all look about 40, 50. And then this kid looks like he's 16, but I guess he's 20.
I'm 20.
But he wants to join. But yes, this is just a beautiful shot that shows sort of gloom, but hope, a glimmer of hope in the yellow light. There's smoke in the air. It's dark outside. Someone who is young and has a future wants to join this gang that would tear them back into darkness, but it's also meant to save them from darkness. So it's a really, really interesting sort of dynamic to think about. And we see that the kid is sort of the spokesperson for him and his friends. And the friends are the people who saved him from his family. He's attached to them. You know, they've been seen in every scene where you see the kid, you also see his friends. And Johnny makes the proposition of, okay, kid, like, you seem to have what it takes. We will take you, but not your friends. And you would think, oh, this kid's not stupid, right? Like, he knows that this is a gang. And in a gang or in a bike group, in a club, in a friend group, you have to look out for your friends. Because the trait that Benny has is that Benny would never leave his friends behind for anything. He wouldn't think twice about it. But what does this kid do? The kid says,
Fine.
all right, I'm in. And he leaves his friends behind. And now he doesn't even get to join. Ha ha ha. That's what you get. Because why are you so dumb? Why would you do that? And he tells them politely to exit the vicinity. He says, thank you for your time, for your proposition. We will see you never again. Really just happy, good vibes all around. A mutual understanding. A mutual decision, really. And now we're back at another gathering. And as soon as we enter this house, I hate it. Bad vibes all around. Too many people, too close a space. There's not a lot of women. There's like 3. Too many men. I don't like it. There's too much going on. I don't like it. Johnny doesn't like it either. Johnny's looking like he hates his life at this point. He's looking around, people doing hard drugs, all the things. He's like, these new kids. But yeah, Mance definitely wants to be retired at this point. He's like, I need somebody to take this over. Benny won't do it. He needs somebody. Then a few things that I don't really like. Next few scenes I don't want to talk about, so I won't talk about it. So we're just gonna jump to somewhere that I do like. We get to Kathy putting on a dress that she saw another girl wearing because she was like, I want that dress.
Boy, look at that dress. I bet I'd look good in that dress.
That would look good on me. And so the men somehow get that dress off that other girl and give it to Kathy. I don't know. I don't want to know how they did it. I don't want to know. Anyways, Kathy almost gets taken away. It's really Not fun, not a fun scene. Benny is not there because Benny has like gone to take care of Cockroach or something, like I don't know. And we cut back to Kathy and we can clearly tell that Kathy is not okay. And Johnny's like, "No, you're fine. Like nothing happened to you." But Kathy is shook up, and rightfully so. And in that moment between Johnny and Kathy, we see a moment of realization for Kathy where she's like, I can't do this anymore because I can't risk that happening again. And so as she realizes she can't do this, she has to tell Benny.
Look, I got something I need to say.
Kathy tells him that you have to quit writing. I can't live like this anymore. It's horrific. Let's just spend a life together. Let's just run away somewhere. She's saying her dreams. She's being vulnerable.
Benny?
And it's so heartbreaking because the scene is gray. The music isn't swelling up with hope. There is no hope in this moment. Benny is on his way. He's putting his gun in his pocket. He has other things to do. And we can see him say,
What'd you ever think this was gonna be?
him sort of telling Kathy that this is who I've always been and this is all that I will ever be. And him sort of admitting that he knows that this probably isn't the life for her, but it's the life for him. And it's heartbreaking to see.
Benny?
I gotta go meet Johnny.
Here we go back to Cockroach. I'm guessing Johnny is like fake killing him. I don't know. He shoots him. He doesn't die. I don't know if that's a joke about how cockroaches are resilient. I don't really know what the point of this is, but it happens. So if you want to know about it, it does. But in that moment of Benny having to watch Johnny shoot one of the gang members for no reason, it makes him second guess what the club is all about and where the club is going.
Is that what this club is now? Is that who we are now?
And this is something that Johnny is concerned about too. And again, Johnny asks Benny, take over the club, please. He says, I can't do it. He's begging on his hands and knees for Benny to take over. But Benny is realizing that maybe Kathy's right, that maybe this isn't the life to live. And Benny stands 10 toes down and says no.
It's not me. Never gonna be me.
And so Benny, instead of confronting any of these problems, really, he runs off into the sunset and he says, I'm gonna be away for a bit. Dumb and poetic, he's gonna go take his ashwagandha and go to the mountains, figure himself out, like most men do. They kind of run away and come back reformed. The kid comes back. He's resilient, that kid. He knows what he wants. And so, of course, the kid wants to be the leader. So he comes back and challenges Johnny. And instead of a fight in the mud, they instead go to have a knife fight in the garage. And it's looking all too familiar to Mike Feist in West Side Story, which if you know how that ends, just how this ends. The kid brings a gun to a knife fight, and that's all he needed to win. And so now Johnny is dead, meaning that the kid is now the leader of the gang. While Johnny was on his way to the fight, he stopped by Kathy's place because he thought Benny might be there.
If he had, I figured you would have seen him before me.
But it turns out that Benny hasn't spoken to either of them. They have a heart-to-heart, and they realize that maybe in the end,
Well, I guess neither of us got him.
Benny only had himself.
What happened to all the guys?
We sort of get the wrap-up of all the characters. We see that some of them have left. Cockroach is still alive. He became a cop. Sonny is like outside a movie theater being just like a statue. People are just making fun of him for cash. Sure. Some people are still riding in the gang. Some was on a shrimp boat. Don't know what that means, but hey, sure. But we don't know.
And what about Benny?
What we all want to know. Where is Benny, and is he with Kathy? And so we get a cut to Benny. We see that he is sad in a bar that looks just like the bar that he got beat up in. And in this moment, of course, he finds out from one of his friends, I guess, that Johnny has passed.
Didn't you used to ride with that guy?
And of course, this breaks his heart and leads him back to Kathy, back to Chicago. He shows up on her doorstep. He sits there. He doesn't knock. He doesn't yell. He just sits there, back turned to the door. And Kathy comes down. She looks through the window for a moment, and you can tell that she is contemplating what she could say. Should she let him back in? Should she yell at him? What is the dynamic going to be? And she knows that he's sad, and her demeanor completely shifts, and she gives in. She goes, she sits next to him. He breaks down in tears, and she comforts him. And it's a really beautiful moment to see. He's back on the porch, right where everything started. As he's crying, you can tell that he doesn't want to cry. You can see him try to stop his tears from flowing, to try to stop the emotions and the thoughts from continuing to turn, but he can't. It's a really sad but beautiful moment. The music swells, and we see they lived happily ever after in Florida. So then we learn that he stopped writing after all. The wind in his hair, the drum in the back, the faint smile that turns into a smirk. They knew what they were doing with that casting. And that's how the movie ends. All in all, I think it was a great film. And I think if I even enjoyed it as someone who doesn't really like crime dramas, I don't watch no Breaking Bad or nothing like that. Like, that's not my realm. I definitely think it's worth a watch, especially if you like those sort of things, or even if you just like beautifully well done film. I think it's still just like a great film to watch and add to your discography. And I'm shocked that more people haven't been talking about it. So I hope that this adds to the conversation and makes you want to watch. Thank y'all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want me to talk about more movies, please leave any movie suggestions in the comments below if you have any. If you want me to like react or share my thoughts on anything, let me know. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video and this episode of Kayla's Movie Corner. Yeah. Anyways, love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
It's yours.